Okay, today I'd like to take a look at how we would create our assembly for the air engine. Okay, this is if we have all our parts created already. I'd like to show you some of the differences between constraint and joint, and we'll look at those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a bunch of sub-assemblies and then put them together. You don't have to do that. Okay, you could do whatever we do here on one page if you'd like. Okay, so we're going to have two piston assemblies, okay, A and B. Okay, A is used twice. Okay, we have three of the cylinder assemblies, which is the cylinder, the valve mount, the valve pivot, the cylinder cover, and three screws. Okay, we have the disc and pin assembly, crank disc and pin assembly. We have the manifold assembly, which is a manifold and the air ports. We have a flywheel that's going to be the flywheel, the shaft, and then there's a set screw on the other side you can't see on this one. Okay, and we have a valve. We're going to have three valves. Okay, and that has a valve plate and a two air and the valve itself. So we'll have one for the middle, one for the left, and one for the right. Okay, so we're going to put those all together. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the cylinder assembly. Okay, so I've already opened up a new assembly and I placed the cylinder and I moved it around when I inserted it so it looks in this direction because that's how we're going to be using them. And I also, if you notice the little pin there, also made sure it's grounded. Okay, also placed the valve mount, three long screws, the cylinder cover, and the valve pivot. Alright, so I'm going to constrain the valve cover or the cylinder cover to the cylinder. Now if I go into constrain, I could go into constrain. Okay, I could find the center here, right there, and I can line it up with the center here. Okay, pick OK. Drag it up a little bit. I can free rotate it, so I can rotate it around this way, pick OK. Then I can constrain this surface to that surface. Okay, pick OK. Now I need to align those holes. Okay, so again I can go to free rotate. Oops, free rotate. Rotate this guy up. And I can constrain this center to that center. Okay, and now I've constrained it. Okay, instead of doing that though, what I can do is I can use the join command. Okay, so I'm going to delete those. Okay, and there is my cover. Okay, using the joint command, I have a couple options here. I can have automatic, rigid, rotational, slider, cylindrical, planar, and ball. Okay, this is going to leave 1 degree of rotation. Rigid leaves none. Rotational allows it to go around in a circle. Slider lets it go left or right. Cylindrical does around the circle plus left and right. And planar does all three. And then a ball is if we have like a ball joint. Okay, I'm just going to put this on automatic right now. Okay, and when I start hovering over this part, okay, I want to pick it so it is the center of this surface here. So you notice when there's a big circle there, okay, and then the little one in the middle. Okay, I'm going to pick that one. Now I want to put it somewhere in here. Again, I want it in that center, so that's picking that one. You'll see it brings it over. Now I put it in upside down, so I'm going to flip the component. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to align these holes. So I'm going to go to number 1, I'm going to align this circle. Okay, number 2 with that circle. And then I'm going to make it rigid. Okay, so now we've put our cap on there. A much easier way of doing it. Okay, we can also take and we can join, and I want these rigid as well, these 3 cap screws. So I can take this one and I want the little circle and this circle, and if it looks right, just pick apply, little circle, that circle, pick apply, little circle, that circle, pick apply. Okay, so now I have those constrained. Okay, now it's easier with 2 surfaces like this to use the constraint instead of the joint for this one. So I'm going to go into constrain, I'm going to pick the center there. I'm going to pick apply, I'm going to constrain the center of this hole with the center of that hole, make sure that it's 0, and I'll pick OK. Okay, I'll now go with joint, and I'll do from this surface to that surface, and I will make that rigid as well. Okay, and we have our assembly. Save it as an assembly drawing or a cylinder sub-assembly. Now I'm going to create the piston assembly B. That is this one. That is the one with the straight connecting rod. Okay, so I've already gone ahead and I've started a new assembly with the connecting rod B, a wrist pin, and a piston. Now again, I'm going to use the joint command. Now when I go and click on this pin, notice it allows me to pick the center of that pin. So I'm going to pick the center of that pin. Now I'd like it to be in the center of this guy, but in the center between these holes. So what I can do while that's waiting for me to pick the second point, if I right click, I will get this menu, and I'm going to pick between 2 faces. And I'm going to pick that face and that face. Now you'll see it makes a little thing. Okay, that's where it wants to put it. Well, I want it between those 2 holes, which would be right there. Okay, and it automatically lines those up, and I made it rigid. Okay, so I'll pick OK. Now I'm going to try to do the same thing with the connecting rod. So I'm going to go to joint. Okay, and I'm going to go try to get the center. If I click on the right spot, it'll show me the center. Oh, there it was, right there. See how it gets the center of it? I'm going to pick that. And then again, I'm going to right click, pick between 2 faces, that face and that face, and I want the one right in the middle, and I'm going to pick there. Now I don't want this to be rigid. I want it to be able to move. Okay, notice there's an automatic playing here. This will show you your degrees of freedom. If I go here and pick rotational, okay, it allows it to swing it around all the way around there. If I go to slider, notice it allows it to slide up and down. Okay, if I go to cylindrical, it not only goes back and forth, it slides, it goes around in the circle. Okay, whoops, planar. Planar goes in 3 directions, and then a ball is like I said, for a ball joint, so it goes around in a sphere. So I want this to be rotational. Okay, so I'm going to pick OK. Okay, now I'm just going to take this, go to the right, or actually, what would be better? I'm going to go here to my connecting rod and that rotational. I'm going to go edit and go to limits, and I'm going to set the current to 90 degrees so that it's sitting, whoops, I'm going to set it to negative 90 degrees or 180 degrees. Okay, or negative 90. Okay, so it's kind of looking in that direction there. Okay, and I'm going to save this as Piston B. Okay, or Piston Assembly B. Now you're going to do the same thing with Piston Assembly A, but instead of this connecting rod, you're going to use the other one. Okay, so that's all we have is two of those. Okay, we have one here that's going to be in the middle, that's B, and then A we're going to use two slipped around or turned around 180 degrees. So get both of these drawn and I'll see you in a second. Okay, the next one I want to do is the crank disc and the crank disc pin. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Inventor, and I've already placed the crank disc here, and again I flip these around so they're kind of in the direction I want. Also want to show you, here is the piston assembly A that I did. Okay, if I look at the front of this, you'll see that this has the one that's cut on the angle. Okay, so back to our crank disc and our crank disc pin. Nice easy one. Go to joint, pick the little one here. That's going to go on the little one there. Okay, that is rigid. Okay, and we'll save that one as crank disc pin assembly. Okay, so now we're going to create our flywheel assembly, and for that we need the flywheel, the shaft, and we're going to have to get a set screw. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so I've already brought the flywheel and the crankshaft and put them there. Now we need a set screw for up here. Okay, so I'm going to go to Place from Content Center. And up here in Content Center, you'll see that we have a whole bunch of stuff. Here we have bolts. Here we have set screws. Okay, I'm going to go up here to the filter. And since we're doing English, I want to make sure that's on ANSI. Okay, now the kind that we want, okay, it's really irrelevant. We can have this one right here, which is a type F hexagon set screw cup point, and it's in inches, so that will be fine. Okay, any of these will work. Okay, but we'll use this one right now. So I just double click on it. Now I have to pick a size, so I just click on the screen and it comes up with the size. Now this one is a 440, so I'll pick 4. Now you notice it's UNC and UNF. Okay, if I go to table view, okay, for the 40s I have a 440 and a 448. So the 440 is a UNC. So we want a UNC. That'll give us a 440. Okay, and an 1/8 of an inch long should work fine. And I'll pick OK, and then I'll just place it wherever I want it. Okay, so there's my set screw. Okay, I'm going to use the joint to put those together. So I'm going to go here, okay, to this point or this surface of my set screw, and then I'm going to put it on this hole right here. Okay, now I'm going to flip that around so it's sitting something like that. Okay, and it's rigid, so that is good. Okay, so my set screw's in there. You can see there's the hex at the top. Okay, now I'll take my crankshaft, okay, and I'm going to rotate this around a little bit, and I'm going to again use a joint, and I'm going to go from this surface here to this surface here. Okay, and again I'm going to make that rigid. Okay, alright, now I'll save that as flywheel assembly, and then we'll make something else. Okay, now we're going to make our valve B. Okay, that is the one with the straight valve on it. Okay, so I've already put my places in here. This is valve B, the one that is straight. I also put one valve gasket and two air fittings. Okay, so we will constrain the valve gasket to the valve. I'm going to go to joint. I'm going to pick this hole right here. I'll line it up with that one there. Now it's going to make a rotational. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to align this surface with this surface right here. Okay, and then I'll make that rigid. Okay, so that lines those up perfectly. All right, I'm going to rotate around this way a little bit, and I'm going to again click OK. I'm going to take this little part of the hole here and align it with that one. Okay, I'm going to change this so it's flat against there. Okay, again I'm going to take the little part of the hole right there to that one there. Again, you'll notice it's flat against there, so I'll take here and I'll flip the component around so it's there, and I'll pick OK. Okay, and we will save that as valve assembly B. Okay, we're going to make our valve assemblies now, or two other valve assemblies. Okay, and they're these are valve A's, so they're both use the same parts. The difference is where the mount and the air fittings are. They're just on different sides. If you look here, okay, notice these are both the same, and all we've done is switch the places of the valve mount and the air fittings. All right, so I've already brought up my valve gasket. I've been calling it a mount, it's a gasket, and the air fittings. Okay, so I'm going to make, let's see, I'm going to make which one? Let's see, I'll make the left one first. Okay. Alright, so that left one, I think this is on this side. It really doesn't matter as long as we use one and the other. Okay, so I'm just going to rotate this around a little bit. Okay, and again I'm going to go to joint and pick this hole and this hole. It will make a rotational. I'm going to align this surface with that surface, and then I'm going to make it rigid. Okay. Whoops, I canceled that. So let's go to joint, here, and here. Okay, we'll align this one with that one. We'll make it rigid, and then we'll pick OK. Alright, so that's there. Now I'll swing it around this way, and then I'll joint these. I'll take I get the little part of it. Might have to swing these around a little bit. From there to there. I'll make that rigid. Okay, I'll apply it. I'll make this one here. Bring it around, put it on there, rigid, and pick OK. Okay, so here's my left one, so I'm going to go File, Save As. Okay, and I'm going to call this Valve Assembly A-L for left, and I'm going to save it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of those constraints I put here. So I'll delete those. Delete those. Okay, and now what I'll do is I'll move them each to the other side. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'll free rotate this guy. Okay, and I'm going to joint this hole to that hole. Okay, I'm going to get this bottom surface lined up with this surface. I will pick rigid, pick OK. Let's go around to this side. Okay, I'll joint these, little one to the little. Have to flip this guy around, make that rigid. Apply, pick this one to that one. Probably got to flip him around too, make it rigid. Okay, and now this is our right hand side. So I'm going to go to File, File, Save As, and I'm going to make this Valve Assembly A, R for right. Manifold assembly, and that's going to consist of our manifold and 6 air fittings. Again, so I've already brought them in. These are nice and easy. I'll go to joint. Okay, I know I want these all rigid, so I'll set them now. And I'll just go from here to there. I'll have to flip that one around, pick apply, there to there. Flip it around, pick apply. Okay, and now that is our manifold assembly. Okay, so now we'll start putting the parts